We've got a veterinary clinic. We've got a nationally known Missouri native interviewing the governor. We've got an opportunity for high school students. We have information about regenerative agriculture. And that's just in our first segment today. Welcome to the Farm Show on Westplex Talk 1045 FM. I'm your host, John Combest. Well, I already spilled the beans about what we have in our first segment that we call A Block. In B Block, we're going to hear from the president of the Missouri Farm Bureau, Garrett Hawkins. We'll play select clips from This Week in Missouri Politics, TWMP Daily, featuring the great Jake Crozen, along with Garrett Hawkins. And then in C Block, C is for Corteva. We're not going to talk about earnings report numbers. No, we're going to talk about some of the hard questions that Corteva answered. We'll also talk about some of their innovative developments that are coming through the pipeline and whether or not you can expect some M&A, mergers and acquisitions from Corteva. That's all coming up right here on the Farm Show. Let's get into it. And let's start close to home. Let's start in Hillsboro. This information is brought to us by Jefferson County Cattlemen's Association. And if you want to follow them on Facebook, you can go to facebook.com/Jefferson County Cattlemen's. Here's what those folks write. Mark your calendars. We have such an exciting event planned for you and the whole family. I'll jump ahead. The event is December 11th, and that is at 264 Bridle Ridge Lane in Hillsboro. A live animal demonstration. It's an at-home cattle health clinic hosted by Jefferson County Cattlemen's, presented by Dr. Fauch of Mineral Area Veterinary Clinic. You heard me correctly. Not Dr. Fauci, but Dr. Fauch. Again, it's December 11th. The doors open at 6:30, and the event starts at 7 p.m. 264 Bridle Ridge Lane in Hillsboro. Topics covered: health and nutrition, safety and handling, animal welfare and behavior, plus environmental factors. As mentioned, a live animal demonstration. The good folks from the Jefferson County Cattlemen's will also be accepting donations for Secondhand Hero. Canned goods or cash are appreciated. Food and drinks will be provided. Now you ask, John, who is Dr. Philip Fauch? Well, Dr. Philip Fauch is a general mixed animal practitioner. He's been with the veterinary clinic of the Mineral Area since 2010. And here's a quick bio. Originally from DeSoto, Missouri, Dr. Fauch says that from a young age, he has wanted to work in a career that allowed him to help people living in rural areas care for their animals and help them make a living farming. Now that he is a veterinarian, he says, I love nothing more than driving home in my Ford pickup covered in muck, knowing that I've helped my clients solve problems and keep their pets and livestock healthy. Once again, that event is December 11th, 6:30 p.m. The doors open at 6:30 p.m. The event starts at 7 p.m. 264 Bridle Ridge Lane. Go to Jefferson County Cattlemen's on Facebook for more information. Now, I mentioned an opportunity for high school students. The Missouri Department of Agriculture is offering 30 high school students representing 4-H clubs, FFA chapters, and farm families throughout Missouri the opportunity to explore careers in agriculture through the 2026 Missouri Agribusiness Academy. MABA is a competitive program for sophomores interested in pursuing agriculture-related degrees and careers. Here's what Missouri Department of Agriculture Director Chris Chen has to say. For nearly 40 years, the Missouri Department of Agriculture has connected students to career opportunities across the entire agriculture industry. We're excited in 2026 to introduce students to many opportunities in the St. Louis region. Appropriately called the Plant Science Corridor, St. Louis is a powerhouse for agriculture technology and innovation. The Missouri Department of Agriculture goes on to say, The students selected will participate in a year-long program to learn about agriculture career opportunities, tour agribusinesses in the St. Louis area, visit the Missouri State Fair, and learn more about the agriculture industry in Jefferson City. The 2026 schedule will include visits with industry and agribusiness leaders, as well as tours of their facilities. Since 1988, the Missouri Agribusiness Academy has graduated 1,140 students through a competitive application and interview process. The first portion of the 2026 program will be held June 1st through 5th and marks the program's 39th year. Students interested in participating must apply by January 15th, 2026. For more information on the Missouri Agribusiness Academy, including application and guidelines, visit the Missouri Department of Agriculture website at agriculture.mo.gov. Let's move right in to regenerative agriculture. Let's talk enrollment, regenerative grazing, and conservation fieldscapes program. That event will be held on December 3rd, 2024. The time, high noon, 12 p.m. to 1 p.m. The format is a virtual webinar. Join us for an informational session about two Missouri CRCL programs. That acronym stands for Missouri Climate Resilient Crop and Livestock, currently open for enrollment. Regenerative Grazing and Conservation Fieldscapes. This webinar provides an opportunity to learn about program details, eligibility requirements, and enrollment processes directly from program managers and extension specialists. The presenters, Dr. Kelly Wilson. She's the Conservation Fieldscapes Program Director. Erin Kiley. She's the Regenerative Grazing Program Manager. Also, Dr. Karen Funkenbush, the MU Extension Partner. Participants will have the opportunity to ask questions and get personalized information about how these programs might fit their operations. Whether you're exploring regenerative practices for the first time or looking to expand your conservation efforts, this session will help you understand the support and resources available through these programs. Do you have questions? You can contact the Center for Regenerative Agriculture at Kelly R. Wilson at Missouri.edu. That's Kelly R. Wilson at Missouri.edu. You can also fill out the online form and you'll receive a Zoom link to the session. You can find that website at cra.missouri.edu. Do you know someone in St. Louis County that would make a good member of the Soil and Water Conservation District? Well, St. Louis County is looking for one good board member. There is a vacant spot on the Soil and Water Conservation District Board. For starters, before I forget, you can find the information by going to mosoilandwater.land. That's mosoilandwater.land. The election nomination period began on November 2nd and runs until December 3rd, 2025. The qualifications required to be a supervisor on the board are the following. Number one, being a land representative from the district. A land representative is defined as the owner or representative authorized by power of attorney of any farm lying within an area proposed to be established. And there's a little bit more legalese here, which you can find at mosoilandwater.land. The second qualification, this person must reside in or own a farm in the area from which he or she is nominated when there is an expiring term. So that would be, in this case, St. Louis County. The third qualification, being a cooperator of the district, which is defined as a person who is actively engaged in farming and practices conservation activities related to agriculture. Number four qualification, being a current resident and tax-paying citizen of the county for at least 2 years preceding the election date. And the election voting period for this would be February 1st to 20th, 2026. So you have to be a tax-paying citizen of St. Louis County for at least 2 years prior to February 2026. The fifth qualification: be 18 years of age or older by the election date and be willing to serve the full term that you would be elected to. And number 6, provide a valid mailing address to the program office and notify the program of any change of address during their term. Elections are held every 2 years. Now keep in mind, you don't have to have someone else nominate you. There is a self-nomination form if you're interested in this position. And for the final time, you can find it by going to mosoilandwater.land. That's mosoilandwater.land. If you've listened to the Farm Show in the last several weeks, you know that we spend a lot of time promoting the Missouri Governor's Conference on Agriculture. Native Missourian Tyne Morgan, the host of the U.S. Farm Report, was in town, and as part of the festivities, she took some time to interview Governor Mike Kehoe. The easiest way to find this interview is to go to YouTube and search for Farm Journal. Now, Tyne started off by asking the governor what the biggest challenge facing farmers in Missouri is right now. Here's what the governor said.
You know, the biggest challenge for farmers are facing today mainly is on the row crop side is the input cost. Input costs combined with lower market prices really have been a double whammy on the row crop side. The farm families that we have here in Missouri as well as across the country are resilient, and they're figuring out a way to get through, but it's certainly been a challenging year. And then on the livestock side, you know, it's been a little bit of a different story. We've had shorter inventory, especially in our cattle production areas, to where the beef market has been a little bit more sustainable and the margins have been a little bit better. So, you know, it's kind of two sides of a coin when you look at where agriculture is right now.
Governor Kehoe also made note of Missouri's diversity in terms of geography and agriculture.
And we had Secretary Rollins here. She's been here several times since she's been secretary, and I'm grateful for that. But when we were talking about, you know, which part of Missouri's farmers are hurting the most, I said, down on the boot heel. And she said, why is that? I said, well, they don't have fences. And she said, what does that mean? I said, they don't have livestock. Whereas in northern Missouri, not that I'm trying to paint a better picture, but a lot of our North Missouri farmers do have livestock that helps offset some of the row crop issues.
From there, Tyne laid out some of the controversy in the beef markets, particularly as it relates to political issues. Here's what the governor had to say.
Well, first of all, our Missouri producers are like the other cattle producing states. They're really proud. They work hard. They've been through an industry that, you know, if you look back the last 30 years, I would argue 26 or 7 years have not been very good in the cattle business. I've been in it 40. And so a lot of cattle producers took it, you know, personally. Those comments, and that's what I wanted to explain to the president, is that, you know, the fact that he made a comment about some beef coming in from another country, that's a very small percentage of what our country consumes. It really wouldn't have an impact. But most of what I talked to him about of how proud our beef cattle farmers are, both in the country and here in Missouri, and that the market factors that we're seeing right now aren't driven from some export regulations or import regulations. It's more driven from incredible droughts for the last 3 years and a high demand for beef. And when those two things get combined, it's a basic economic theory. The demand is high. The prices are going to be high because supply is low. And so I walked through what it's like in Missouri for our producers, as well as what I thought it could represent for cattle producers across the United States. And I will tell you, he did listen. The president is very, very focused on what the farm economy is going through. You've seen some big wins for the row crop farmers in some of his negotiation recently in his trade trip, and I think the president understood a little bit more about the beef market after I was finished, and I was grateful to have that opportunity to represent our cattle ranchers here in Missouri and all across the United States.
The governor also drew a distinction between foreign-owned packers and one packer located right here in our broadcast area.
And recently you've seen, you know, this is not a slam against the packers, but any cattle producer would, if you go to the coffee shop or the feed store, you're going to hear about all the world's problems, right? And for years, the cattle producers have been saying the margins and the prices are high in the grocery store, but we, the producers, aren't seeing those margins. And so, there's definitely some room to look at this at the industry on, where the producers are, where the packers are. And that's the focus that we need to look at if there's something going on. But the main thing we need to do is build our herd in this country. And that's really where the problem has become with the higher prices, is that our herd inventory is very low.
Well, and you've been working on expanding processing in the state. You look at American Foods Group, and I know that's part of a bigger initiative in the state. So what is that initiative doing to really fuel agriculture and fuel agribusiness across the Show Me state?
It's likely one of the best things we've seen come to our ag industry in recent years, because Missouri's like a lot of other states. We are growing cattle, but we are sending them out of states to fatten because that's where the packers were. And now, for the first times ever, we have a processing packing plant here in Missouri that's a high volume plant, and that does a lot for our Missouri farmers. It also lets us fatten cattle here, so guess what that helps? It helps the row crop farmers as well, because we have to feed them to get them there. I'm so grateful for American Food Group's investment here. It's a family-owned business. They've been a great asset to our state. I can't say enough good things about their management team, their hiring practices, how they're treating the farmers. And it's just a first step, I think, for our cattle producers to really have more of a complete ability to grow and raise cattle here in this market.
And we'll just play one more clip here. Tyne asked the governor, what are some of the common sense policies that you want to see put into place in Missouri in 2026 and 2027?
Well, first of all, number one thing I think any elected official should do is get government out of your life. Farmers are pretty sharp. They've been doing this for generations and generations, centuries here in this country. And they're pretty smart. They're resilient, like I said, and they know how to innovate. They don't need government telling them what to do. That's the number one thing. But where government can help is in the basic areas that farmers can't build their own roads to get their product to market. So making sure, in our case, in Missouri, our letter routes, our bridges, the things that we have to get the product to market are upgraded and invested in. And we've made record investments in the last 3 years in farm to market roads and infrastructure here for our Missouri farmers. Then port facilities. Again, how do we export more of our product out to the world market? We've made record investments in port facilities, and I think that's common sense investment that the average Missourian or the average family farmer expects government to make on their behalf when they're paying those tax dollars. They can't build their own roads, they can't build their own ports. Things that help get our product to market are really important to me, and that's what we're going to try to keep doing.
And the governor wrapped up the interview by thanking Tyne for all that she does to help tell the story of Missouri agriculture and agriculture producers all throughout the country. Again, that was Tyne Morgan's interview with Missouri Governor Mike Kehoe. And probably the best place to find it online is going to the Farm Journal account on YouTube. And you can see a full episode of Tyne from the Missouri Governor's Conference on Agriculture by going to U.S. Farm Report via the Farm Journal account on YouTube. When we come back, highlights from my favorite Missouri-based show, This Week in Missouri Politics. They had Missouri Farm Bureau President Garrett Hawkins on. You'll hear that when we come back.